knows a lot about the science stuff. Professor Dave explains.
We have made a lot of progress in examining phylum Chordata, having gotten through many vertebrate clades, and we have now arrived at the tetrapods. The first tetrapod clade we will examine is the amphibians, as they evolved first. The earliest amphibians evolved in the Devonian period from the sarcopterygian fish with lungs and bony-limbed fins. Looking again at the cladogram, we will notice that the amphibians are a sister clade to the amniotes, which includes all other tetrapods. Amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals are all members of phylum Chordata. They are also vertebrates, gnathostomes, meaning jawed. They are bony and thus osteichthyes. They qualify as lobe-finned fish, or sarcopterygii, are all members of tetrapoda because their ancestors were four-limbed, and many of them also share this characteristic in their present forms. Modern amphibians range in size from the 7.7 mm long microhylid frog, Pedophrine amanuensis, that was discovered in 2012, all the way up to the 1.8 meter or 5 feet 11 inches long South China giant salamander. In order to better study the amphibians, we will split their form and function into two tutorials. In this tutorial, we will go over their evolutionary origins, general characteristics, basic phylogeny, reproduction and development, and conservation. It is widely accepted that amphibians began to emerge and diversify about 370 million years ago during the Devonian period. These early forms evolved from lobe-finned fish, marking a transition from aquatic to terrestrial life for the chordate lineage. During the Carboniferous period, a significant radiation occurred, giving rise to diverse amphibian forms and sizes. Notable groups like labyrinthodonts showcased adaptations for both aquatic and terrestrial environments, with limbs and digits facilitating terrestrial locomotion. During this time in the fossil record, we see a multitude of transitional forms such as Ichthyostega, which had 4 sturdy limbs, a neck, a tail with fins, and a skull similar to that of the lobe-finned fish Eusthenopteron. Though there is some debate as to which fossil forms are or aren't amphibians, all extant forms within the class Amphibia are also in the subclass Lysamphibia, meaning smooth amphibians, which includes the Anurans, Chordatans, and Gymnophionans. The earliest fossils widely attributed to these modern amphibians don't show up until the Permian. This means that for quite some time, the ancient amphibians were the dominant terrestrial chordates. Indeed, some of them, like Prionosuchus and Mastodonsaurus, were well over 5 meters in length, and although they may look reptilian, they are actually only distantly related to the famous dinosaurs which dominated the globe after the Permian extinction. However, although there are a great deal of fascinating extinct amphibians, from Beelzebufo to Garothorax, since this is a zoology series, we're going to focus on their extant forms. Amphibians are the only tetrapods that are not amniotes, that is, they do not produce amniotic eggs, and instead produce yolky or mesolecithal eggs with jelly-like membranes. Many go through a detailed period of metamorphosis from larval to adult forms, and as adults, most of them are 4-limbed, and those with limbs generally have a forelimb with 4 digits and a hind limb with 5. They also have relatively lighter skulls than most vertebrates, as well as skeletons which are often less ossified and primarily composed of bone with varying numbers of vertebrae. They also lack true nails and often have webbed feet, in the case of the Anurans. Most notably, amphibians also have smooth, moist, and glandular skin modified for cutaneous respiration, meaning they can exchange gases through their skin without lungs. In fact, an entire family, Plethodontidae, are known as lungless salamanders. They are also noted for their pigment cells and glands that secrete defensive compounds. As we mentioned, all extant amphibians are also in the subclass Lysamphibia. Order Gymnophiona includes about 200 known species of legless caecilians, and Order Chordata includes over 725 species of salamanders, which includes the newts, axolotls, and many others. However, the diversity of these orders are dwarfed by Anura, which are commonly referred to as frogs, and include over 7,500 species, or nearly 90% of all extant amphibians, making them the most biodiverse and widespread of all modern amphibians. Speaking of diversity, reproduction and development varies by amphibian order. We typically think of amphibian development through the lens of an Anuran, where the males call to attract mates. Females then choose a male, and he embraces her in a grasp known as amplexus, until she makes it to the water and lays eggs, which he fertilizes externally. These fertilized eggs, or zygotes, then begin developing almost immediately and become a hollow ball of cells, or blastula, through repeated division, or cleavage, which undergoes gastrulation and develops into an embryo with a tail bud. This is nourished by yolk until it hatches 2 to 21 days later as a tadpole with external gills that grows a skin fold over those gills and begins its herbivorous or scavenging life. These tadpoles have a distinct head, trunk, and tail, and develop into froglets by first growing their hind limbs, followed by forelimbs, and then absorb their tails, and completely rearrange their respiratory and digestive systems for a semi or fully terrestrial life as adults. In some species, this may take as little as 3 months or less, and the young begin developing rapidly, while others, like the bullfrogs, may remain as tadpoles and continue to grow in size for 2 to 3 years or more before they begin metamorphosis. Although this process is true for most temperate Anurans, this story is not true for all amphibians, or even of all Anurans. For one, although most frogs show no parental care, the South American pygmy marsupial frog, for example, carries their larvae in a dorsal pouch, while male Darwin's frogs carry their developing froglets in their vocal pouches, and Suriname toads carry their fertilized eggs in embedded brooding pouches on their back. Others, like those of genus Eleutherodactylus, hatch from eggs as small frogs and bypass the tadpole stage entirely. Meanwhile, a male caecilian fertilizes a female internally by way of his phallodium, which he inserts into the female's cloaca. The eggs hatch as miniature versions of the parents, which then use their teeth to bite off pieces of their mother's nutritious mucus-covered skin, and consume it along with secretions from her cloaca, which they subsist on for weeks. Interestingly enough, this skin contains dense nutrients for growth and development, much like the breast milk of mammals. Many salamanders of order Chordata also engage in internal fertilization, where the male deposits a spermatophore, which is a small packet of sperm, in the air or underwater. The female then takes up the sperm packet by grasping it with the lips of the cloaca and pushing it into the vent. The female may then carry the fertilized eggs for some time before depositing them in or near a body of water, where at hatching the emerging larval form has eyes without lids, teeth in both upper and lower jaws, 3 pairs of feathery external gills, and a long tail with dorsal and ventral fins. The forelimbs may be partially developed, and the hind limbs are rudimentary in pond-living species, but may be more developed in species that reproduce in moving water. Their metamorphosis into adults is often less pronounced than in frogs, because they already closely resemble the adults, and unlike tadpoles, are already carnivorous. Some species, like the now famous axolotl, remain in this juvenile form for their entire lives and sexually mature as juveniles, a phenomenon known as pedomorphosis, while gilled adults are known as perennibranchiates, though they can, in rare conditions, undergo metamorphosis. Meanwhile, lungless salamanders of family Plethodontidae are terrestrial and lay a small number of unpigmented eggs in a cluster among damp leaf litter. Each egg has a large yolk sac, and the larva feeds on this while it develops inside the egg, and eventually emerges as a fully formed juvenile salamander. While they develop, many females will often brood and defend these eggs against predators until they hatch. In terms of conservation, more than a third of amphibians are currently threatened with extinction. Their global decline has been recognized since the 1980s, when the extinct golden toad went from one of the most common species to completely extinct in a matter of years. There are a number of threats that contribute to their decline, such as habitat destruction and modification, overexploitation, pollution, introduced and invasive species, global warming, and especially diseases like chytridiomycosis, which is caused by several species of chytrid fungi that have been linked to massive declines in amphibian populations in North, Central, and South America, Australia, East Africa, and much of the Caribbean. However, all is not lost for amphibians. There are numerous international efforts to save native species and release captive bred populations into the wild. Some, like the Panamanian golden frog, may be entirely extinct in the wild, though they thrive in captivity. Organizations like the Smithsonian are working to breed disease-resistant individuals and release them back to their native lands. Though their future is unknown, at least the efforts to save them have increased dramatically since their decline was noted. And with that, we've covered a brief overview of the amphibians and their conservation. Let's move forward and check out their body systems next. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Support me on Patreon so I can keep making content. And as always, feel free to email me, ProfessorDaveExplains@gmail.com.